Tomorrow, heads of state will be gathering here in New York at the United Nations for a massive climate change summit. And key to this summit is getting the United States and China, two of the world's biggest producers of greenhouse gases, to agree on some key points, particularly who should pay for a low-carbon world ahead of that Copenhagen meeting that's planned for the month of December. Joining us now, Boer, Executive Secretary of the United Nations Framework Convention for Climate Change. Thank you for making time to come in to speak. A lot of excitement that President Obama is going to be there and actively participating in this climate change conversation. What actionable items do you expect to come out of this conference?
Well, this is the first and only time that world leaders are meeting before a new deal on climate change has to be agreed in December of this year in Copenhagen. So this is really the only opportunity for world leaders to say we want to get it done in Copenhagen. Secondly, this is the opportunity for world leaders to announce what their contribution is going to be to that agreement. For example, I expect that President Hu from China will be making a very important statement tomorrow on what China intends to do to address climate change.
When you say an important statement, it's been spoken about that there may be a 2-degree Fahrenheit mandate. There may be some very specific expectations set in terms of climate change. Do you expect that, specifically that 2-degree Fahrenheit mandate to come out?
I don't know if that 2-degree mandate will come out, because many small island developing states feel that that is just not good enough. I mean, the impacts of climate change for some of them would mean that they would disappear. So they're looking for a target that is more ambitious than that. But I think if the meeting tomorrow can If at the meeting tomorrow world leaders can say we want ambitious targets from rich nations, we want clear engagement from developing countries, we need money on the table to help poor nations engage to address climate change, and that will be a really great result.
Now, Europe has donated about $2 to $15 billion, I've read, in terms of helping some of those poorer nations comply with adaptations to these new standards. The United States not necessarily participating in that or to that degree. Where do you expect that aid to come from?
Well, I think first of all, Europe hasn't already said it's going to give that.
That's the expectation that they'll do that.
That's the expectation as part of a larger deal. But in all fairness, the Markey-Waxman legislation that made it out of your Congress also includes financial support for developing countries, especially to adapt. So I think we're seeing the beginning of a very important willingness on the part of rich countries to help poor countries engage.
Where are you seeing, there's talk about the creation of a marketplace to help feed interest in this. Where are demand right now for carbon offset credits?
Well, the carbon market is a hugely growing one. I think it's the only one that actually grew in spite of the financial crisis, doubled in size last year. So that's very clearly showing that market-based mechanisms are the way to go. And I see developing countries like China, India, Mexico, Korea really wanting to be part of that, of a big international market.
Will that include emissions targets when you reference China's statement tomorrow and what your expectations?
I don't know if the whole of the Chinese economy is going to be brought under a single target. Perhaps there will be targets for portions of the economy, for example, a renewable energy target or an industrial energy efficiency target, and then trading within that market rather than immediately going to an economy-wide market.
Now, there are reports out when you look at industrial production. Obviously, the economy has very much impacted the level of production out there. In some ways, the recession has aided the cutbacks in pollution in some way. Has that changed your expectations for some of those targets that might be discussed? I mean, has the economy sort of done the work in some ways?
Well, you could cynically argue that the economic crisis has made ambitious climate change goals more easy. That's undeniably true. What I find more encouraging in these difficult times is that countries like China, Korea are really using the economic crisis to change the direction of economic growth, to invest more in renewable sources of energy, in industrial energy efficiency, in better vehicles. So people are seeing this as a chance as well to change the direction of economic growth.
Thank you so much. We're going to be following that climate change summit very closely. Thank you so much for making time to come into our studios today, Boer.